Welcome to the U.S. Manufacturing Today podcast, your hub of information about the U.S. manufacturing and distribution industry. Brought to you by Variable, the on-demand labor solution revitalizing and optimizing your operation, enabling just-in-time response to demand, more efficient production, and lower cost per unit. And now your host and head of reindustrialization at Variable, Matt Harine.
Welcome back to U.S. Manufacturing Today, the podcast powered by Variable, where we talk with the leaders, innovators, and changemakers shaping the future of American industry, along with providing regular updates on the state of manufacturing, the changing policy landscape, and more. On this show, we spend a lot of time talking about reindustrialization from the factory floor, production capacity, workforce, freight, energy policy. But today we're going somewhere we haven't gone deep in a long time. The last 100 feet of the American supply chain, the warehouse dock, the pick line, the pack station, the place where everything we talk about making in this country actually has to get into a box and into the customer's hands, accurately, on time, every time. Our guest today lives in that world. Leo Rodriguez is the vice president at River Plate, Inc., a Los Angeles-based fulfillment and logistics company with more than 30 years in business. It started in 1992 as a family freight operation in Southern California and has grown into a true omnichannel 3PL. Warehousing, distribution, freight coordination, and fulfillment for brands selling across direct-to-consumer, Amazon, and wholesale retail. Leo has played a key role in expanding those capabilities, and he brings something we value highly on this show, a hands-on operator's perspective, not a consultant slide deck. In this episode, we'll get into what reliable actually means inside the four walls of a fulfillment operation, how to prevent the fulfillment fire drill before customers ever feel it, and why the best 3PL relationships work like an operating system rather than a vendor contract. And that view from the Southern California logistics corridor tells us about the state of American supply chains. So let's get into it. Leo, welcome to U.S. Manufacturing Today.
Hello. Thank you, Matt. Hello, audience.
All right. We're excited to have you on because this is something we don't really get too much into. There's a lot of news and a lot of noise about freight and freight costs and supply versus demand driven market dynamics going on. But I want to start out with the journey first. You're VP of a company that started in 1992 as a family operation, working out of a small office in Los Angeles, and walk us through your path and how River Plate evolved from coordinating freight to running a full omnichannel fulfillment.
Yes, it's a wild one. Been a roller coaster of a ride, but very rewarding. It's my mother, actually. She's the one that started the business, actually, freight logistics, going LTLs, full truckload shipments, picking up LA County as well as San Diego, some into Ventura County. Did that first, like 7-8 years. Then started hearing some noise from the clients that they're needing warehousing, storage facilities, but then some value-added services. By value-added services, specifically like kitting or some labeling. Enough noise came through where that was important to her to think of, I don't have those capabilities right now, but you know what? Open up a warehouse and I'll give this a shot. Now 33, 34 plus years in business, that was going to transition into fulfillment, e-commerce distribution, retail distribution, wholesale, obviously vast kitting programs throughout a lot of different verticals. I've been actually part of the business for 17 years. Started actually so on the warehouse floor I didn't just get handed a position or a high level position, right? I had to learn the nitty gritty of understanding how to handle inventory, stocking, put away, different dynamics on how the front end of the supply chain works, the back end of the supply chain works, and then figuring out how everything back then, a lot of it was, we were doing a lot of paper-based spreadsheets control through ordering and inventory, but making sure we were able to, I was a big part of implementation of a lot of different technology and helping scale the business.
For sure. No, you bring up an interesting point and a shift in the business, and it's always interesting from a family business perspective, right? You hit on a couple of things there where people, they build these things to last, and there's obviously been a significant change in the landscape since the 90s. Like most great businesses, you're adapting to what your customers are telling you and what the customer wants. And that's how you've probably achieved your growth, which you highlighted really well. The mid-90s arrival of e-commerce changed everything from logistics. From your seat, what was the single biggest operational shift? At least I know you probably weren't in seat there yet, but you probably saw that play out over the beginning of your career for sure.
Yeah. So the thing that just sticks out is that initially brands maybe so at least what we were dealing with at that point was more B2B than direct to consumer. So it was pretty straightforward script of exactly what that wholesaler or retailer needed to execute the shipment, whether it's shipping parcel or shipping palletized shipment LTL for truckload, pretty linear. And then as within the couple years I was within the position or within the business, started seeing that rise in these virtual channels, marketplaces online. And how are you going to absorb those type of orders? And by absorbing, it's like the communication in terms of what channels, what operating systems is the brand using, and how is that going to integrate into your systems? It's using a warehouse management system for 16 years. We had an order management system before that, but now more of a diverse, more impactful operating system to be able to handle all those different channels, all the different marketplaces, be able to set up business rules within them, configurations and settings, and how it works with parcel, how you're able to ship with expedite shipping and economy shipping. So all that there's a big learning curve. Also, a big part of it is educating the accounts because a lot of it was very new to them, right? But now here we are, pretty well automated.
Yeah, it's a crazy shift. And the speed is something that really people don't take a step back and realize the speed at which things move these days, whether it's in the DTC space or whether it's just in regular industrial freight. It's a pretty incredible operation. I think you touched on something there that really we want to dive into here, because every 3PL website in America, every 3PL's pride point is fast and accurate, right? But you work on receiving, distribution, freight coordination. You work on this every day. Operationally, at the dock door, on the shop floor, what does reliable actually mean? And what are the metrics and disciplines that separate a real operation from more of a marketing claim, which we've seen in the market these days?
Of course, yeah. A big part of it is transparency and being true to the KPIs, right? There's expectations that should be established beforehand, and when you're engaging and onboarding an account, that the speed of receiving an inbound should be within a couple days. Back 15 years ago, we would say we can get in an inbound a full 40-foot container. It'll give us about 5-7 days to business days to take care of that. That's no longer in place. That's not gonna work now. It's like you just said, it's the Amazon effect on every level. It's just everyone's expecting it to move much quicker. These inbounds are coming in from LTL to full truckloads to these 40-foot containers. Those are between 1 to 3 business days in terms of full verification, making sure that, and even beforehand, so I can back it up a little bit, right? It's the preparation and organization between the 3PL and the brand or the account to make sure that those receipts are virtually in their systems, essentially advanced ship notices, right? ASNs. So they're virtual packing lists, right? And then obviously SOPs that need to go hand in terms of what is required for that specific inventory or item profile to be checked in. We deal with accounts that are in lifestyle brands, apparel, beauty. You have some that are in toys, electronics. Their maybe quality control or inspection steps are different from one brand to another, right? So different industries. Some need you just to verify simple information. Some require serialization, expiration dates to be scanned into their systems, lot number, batch number. All those are pretty much standard now across a lot of different SKU profiles, but making sure that those SOPs are tethered to each individual brand on that receiving process so that it can speed it up on the dock floor and then inject that directly to the stock positions. But also to add additional layers, there's POs just constantly flowing in. There's backlogs, right? There's a lot of our clients can't even get the inventory fast enough. So there is over allocated orders, essentially POs or just e-commerce orders that are just sitting in the system that are waiting to be processed that don't have enough inventory, just simply enough, right? Now, how well can your 3PL actually be able to, sort and be able to stage that so that they can just immediately put that into a production process or a pick and pack process or put a distribution plan right out of the gate, out of offloading from the container. So you have 30% going into stock and then 70% that are just going for 5-6 different channels. And where is that going within the facility so that it can be processed quicker? Because every day is vital for that to go out and time is of the essence.
Absolutely. I consider that kind of a primer on operational SOPs and the logistics environment. It's 100% true. It's how well do you know your customer and how well are they aligned to your process so that they get what they expect on time and in full. You did hit on something there, and It sets up what I think might be the most relatable topic of this episode for anyone who's lived through a Q4, the fulfillment fire drill, which is something I think is squarely in your lane. Let's talk about the fire drill. Every brand has lived it. Orders back up, customer service tickets pile up. Everyone seems like they're scrambling, but from the operator's side, backlogs almost never come out of nowhere. What are the early warning signals you watch for, and how do you act on them before customers feel anything?
It's a great question because we and probably many 3PLs now have data and then have predictable data as well, right? So historical archived information, understanding different must arrive by dates from different retailers. Essentially, we need to better understand our customer's customer, right? That starts way in advance, right? So we do a lot of collaborating on forecast calls. Understanding a big part of it is the managing labor, right? So expected labor that's going to require if there's any integrations that need to happen beforehand that might not be fully in place, or it's maybe in place, but it's not ready for that type of volume. So what additional configurations or add-ons that you can do well in advance before even fourth quarter hits. But it really, to sum it all up, a big part of it is just engaging early on in the stages with your client, seeing what that inbound forecast looks like, and being to be honest and be like, this is what you're going to be able to make. This is what's going to be tight. But a 3PL should be able to be flexible. And if you're working 2 shifts, sometimes during fourth quarter, you're working overtime, weekends. It's what's necessary to make it happen, get the stuff out the door for the client.
Yeah, absolutely. You touched on a couple of really interesting points, especially for us at Variable. We talk about surge capacity and the ability to handle seasonal demand all the time here through labor management and figuring out how to build that flexibility within your operation. Usually a pretty critical constraint, but I won't take our airtime to talk about all of that. But a serious planning factor for sure. Really insightful. It pivots us into the relationship side of this because you did touch on a couple of key things there. Everything you just described only works if the brand and the 3PL are actually operating as one system. And as a consumer, I've seen that when it's disjointed, right? You're getting a package from some unknown 3PL or you're getting a package from somebody else. And it twists and turns kind of your relationship with whatever brand you're buying or that you're expecting to show up on your front door. But you've made the case that a fulfillment partner should act like an operating system for the brand, not a vendor you hand the boxes to. What's the difference in practice, and what does a brand get from an operating system relationship that they'll never get from something that's transactional?
Yeah, there's so many different layers there, but one thing that the saying goes here, like internally within our 4 walls, is in the conversation with our accounts, is like, look, we understand we are your hands, eyes, and ears, right? We're the last ones to touch the product until it goes either to market or direct to the consumer. But again, I'm going to go back to even from simply just from the onboarding, because there's so much that can happen on the onboarding setups that could be missed. So there's nowadays with all the tech and obviously AI available, there is notifications or predictable information that could be, or essentially data and reports that could be already sent to you well in advance to make better business decisions. But how are you going to digest that? Is that also easily visible? Can you at any time, at any minute of the day, go into a login or receive specific messages to inboxes, even texts, be able to jump into the portal and be able to it shouldn't be for not only our customers, for the brands. You shouldn't be having to sit there and crunch information and try to decipher what you're doing. You essentially need to be running parallel, and that's what we're trying to do day to day, is be able to, outside of just a simple making sure that tracking numbers are updated across all the systems, not just our WMS, but their ERPs, their OMSs, making sure that on the back end that they actually have the correct settings within their shopping carts to even deliver that. See, that's another layer that we've just jumped into a lot more in the last 3 years, is not just only relying on them to say, okay, yeah, we did the configurations with Shopify or BigCommerce or WooCommerce, whatever it might be. It's let's actually set up a call and run through a bunch of test orders, a bunch of scenarios. Because once you go live, then it's just last you want to do is backpedal, right? A big part of it there, I was piggybacking, is it's in B2B and retail. retail is it's delicate and also hard to break through the walls of trying to get forgiveness for chargebacks. You need to follow these compliance guidelines to the T. Things need to be thoroughly tested before you're going to go and bring on a Target or a Walmart world, because the EDI world there's things that changes that sometimes it gets the brand's admin or specific team members there, doesn't flow to the 3PL. And then you find out about it 4 months later, but then you get an accumulation of these violations and it could be detrimental to a brand.
There's a lot for everyone in that answer, because there are folks listening who are possibly looking for a 3PL partner. There are PLs that are probably listening for best practices from an organization like yours. And you mentioned something on the honesty front there about forecasting. Forecasting is always something that it's to averages, right? There's no crystal ball. There's good data, there's good intuition, but oftentimes there's a plus minus factor in that, right? And just from your perspective, as somebody who's lived this life, what are the red flags that a fulfillment partner looks for in a potential customer? If you're sitting there evaluating bringing business on board, because it's an expansion of your operation, you're taking on capital requirements, you're taking on all kinds of additional responsibilities potentially. What are some of the red flags that you say, this is the right kind of business to partner with us?
So important, because I think it has to be complete honesty there. You can't have to be fully transparent. It's sometimes don't want to hear it. The clients don't want to hear it. You don't want to hear it, but it has to be laid out on the table. So to expand on that and it's a conversation that we've had, it's consistent, right? It's evaluating, like we could just throw around, okay, who's our ideal client profile? Let's go ahead and put them in a box. But engaging on discovery calls, having direct pointed questions, asking some uncomfortable questions, but some things to really answer your question, red flags we've seen and we've learned. You live and learn sometimes. You could do some referrals, you can do some background checks, you can look into the business and how long they've been in business, and sometimes there's suppliers, vendors, sometimes we already know them. But a couple things that stick out there. And I'm just gonna put it out there, if there are a lot of bad mouthing their previous 3PL and they kind of just stick on that, you could pick up a lot from that, right? So it's always, it's the 3PL's fault. It's the 3PL's fault. But then when you start asking them more insightful questions about their processes and their workflows and how they engage with that 3PL, it looks like that could be more of a shared responsibility and a shared failure points. Or why did something bottleneck where it was, but was it also, was that brand or business, or were you not providing the 3PL with good information, or just bad data, or not being responsive, right? It's just, that's their job. That's what we pay them for, right? And you see them like, oh, they mismatched my inventory, they did that. But then you ask them about, how do you ID your inventory? Do you even have it barcoded? They couldn't handle our expiration dates. And then you realize, was that something that you started from the beginning? Was that in the item profile to start to then, and then also marked on the inventory level, on the inventory itself physically? Is that in a barcode format or to be RF scans? Certain things, it goes on and on, but you can see once they'll go into a lot of this old 3PL, because that's where we get a lot of inquiries that way. It's a lot of it. So there's more than half of the inquiries that we received are from brands and companies that are trying to transition into a new 3PL. A lot of it, and look, this is a portion of it. A lot of them, it's just, the reality is that 3PL, they don't have certain specialties, are not able to scale within certain marketplaces or retail, or just specialized, or just maybe just are not the size that they need. They've outgrown. Things happen, right? Or where they're located, right? Speed of service. There's a lot of things, but we do see, as we go into more deeper questions, we're like, okay, the brand's also not as well organized, and they can contribute to the problem instead of to the solutions. And another one that sticks out there is pricing is not everything, right? There's 3PLs are there to help protect margins, right? There's a lot of things we could read between the lines to help, that are not just the X's and O's of, this is your order processing fee, this is your each pick, this is your case pick, this is how much we charge for stretch wrapping. Those are easily able to digest. You can put different type of B2B or direct to consumer scenarios, and this is what you look at. But then what else between the lines can the 3PL do to really save that money? Because it's not just the individual, their pricing sheet. How much do they dive into the big one right now, into your parcel programs, right? Do they really go down nitty gritty to see that they're giving you have 4 to 5 different options now, 6 different options of different carriers that could be rate shopped, and these business rules that just is not fixed for all your different accounts. It's shipment, net weight, dimensions, 1 inch or 2 pounds over really can make a difference of $3 to $4 on just a simple parcel, right? So there's a lot of things behind the scenes that can happen that the 3PL could do to help you stay lean on inventory, for example. So sometimes it's just visible. They just see it on here's my stock status report, here's my cubic feet, my billable pallets. But what else can the 3PL offer you to help offset some of that stuff too?
Yeah, no, that's really insightful. We're in a pretty volatile market right now. Just input costs for manufacturers, like we talk about utility costs, energy costs, all of those things. For you guys, whatever the spot rate is and whatever is going on, pricing doesn't work anymore. It's not like a static thing that people can rate shop and expect within a 5 to 10% markup. So that's definitely a really insightful thing, and one that I'm sure you've probably come across several where it's like, we're not the right partner. I think there's the case where that makes sense because people do need to view the 3PL and the structure as somebody who's their partner, not, to your point, just a vendor. It's somebody that should be able to help them grow their business. As we've gotten more into this complex shipping environment and how brands have been out there scaling across DTC, Amazon, wholesale, I want to talk about the omnichannel question. I wouldn't call it a problem, but a brand selling direct to consumer on Amazon and into wholesale retail is really running kind of 3 different fulfillment businesses at once, right? And there's different rules, different penalties, different rhythms. What breaks first when a brand tries to scale across all 3 simultaneously or too fast? And how do you build one operation that can serve them all reliably?
Yeah, it's a great question there too. The thing that we've seen evolve is the 3PL should have, most of them have the ability to, regardless of the marketplace and channel, the client's customer, right? That they have a way to integrate and pass order data as well as input and output, right? Input of the order information, output if that channel requires sends to be sent, or obviously a trigger point for tracking number, as well as big one obviously there is also inventory syncs, right? So you have a lot of syncs going every 5 minutes, 10 minutes. But old school way, even with integrations, you have direct one-to-one integration. So their shopping cart, for example, you have a Shopify integration come directly to the warehouse management system. It's one-to-one connection. That data is passing 1 lane in, 1 lane out, right? Then you had your Amazon FBM, right? Another virtual platform that orders coming in. Now you have a direct integration from Amazon directly to you. Then you have another channel, whatever it might be, another marketplace. So now you just have all this data that's living in 2, 3, 4 different platforms, but you need to manage inventory altogether and understand what's happening. Essentially, you need a headquarters, you need a space to where it's reviewing what you have available in inventory. Because if we're your only 3PL, we could be one 3PL, you could have another 3PL. How are you going to communicate to make sure that is this order even getting split properly? There's so many things there, but what you're seeing more and more now is more sophisticated integrations through ERPs, order management systems. One system is connecting to that headquarter systems, those order management systems, those ERPs, and then that's pushing to the WMSs and making decisions based off of those back configurations on where that order should go, and also obviously flagging anything before it becomes a problem early on.
For sure. That makes a lot of sense. And it's a really great way of framing it. And I kind of want to pivot somewhat to zoom out maybe from the 4 walls, because your operation sits in one of the most strategically important logistics corridors in the country. You sit next to the largest port complex in the Western Hemisphere. From your vantage point, receiving freight, watching what flows through your docks, what is the Southern California corridor telling you right now about the state of American supply chains?
Yes, we've seen also it's a moving target there. Gone through just recently, obviously with the whole tariff situations, you have strikes at the port. You've had issues with sometimes with labor, trucking, chassis. Some freight forwarders are better in line than others. Overall, though, what I see is there's a lot of resilience, not only just from the brands, but from freight forwarders themselves and the 3PL being able to be strategic. And again, it goes down to let's say there's a lot of communication, there's a lot of things going on at once. So it's hard just to pinpoint. But from our end of it, fortunately, the delays that we were seeing about 5, 6, 7 years ago, outside of COVID and some of the tariff situations, that just created a jam up for everyone, right? That's not just only impacted our side, right? It was all over, right? We feel like it's actually become pretty smooth. We would say these deliver before when these containers are reaching port and they land, we're seeing most of these are being cleared through customs between 2 to 4 days. You used to see a lot of holdups between 1 to 2 weeks, at least from the freight forwarders that our clients engage with, the ones that we're engaging with, because we require delivery appointments for all these. So once they receive a dock appointment, that's cleared. These freight companies are delivering to us. We're giving that delivery appointment pretty much the next day. Bring it on in. You're not waiting 2 to 3 days to bring it in. An advantage there, huge one there. It's a lot of strategically, a lot of our client or new business they're like, all right, we started with a 3PL in Dallas or so. We have one in Knoxville, wherever it might be, right? And they're realizing, okay, though, but the speed of what they need that inventory has now just skyrocketed, right? So getting it now, even though it clears fast at the Long Beach port, LA port, the problem is now you got to freight it over, right? And that process, you're adding an extra 4 to 7 days. So more and more they're looking strategically we're in a hub zone, we're an hour away from port on a good day with traffic. But it's vital now that as soon as these vessels arrive and you're able to, and it clears customs, you're able to give a delivery point into your facility to begin to verify, inject it into our part of the distribution and fulfillment, right? But overall, I've seen in the last, even with that disruption of the tariffs, the last 3-4 years where from our point of view, it's gotten better.
That's good to know, because we talk a lot about like tariff policy and trade policy in the abstract, and what mostly on the manufacturing side, where people are finding suppliers, where they're finding new materials, what domestic manufacturing is actually doing. But it doesn't sound like that trade policy immediately impacts your floor as it can with others who are making things. And like most in logistics, you just ride the wave and work through it. Looking a little bit ahead now, what trends are you watching most closely in fulfillment and logistics, and how is AI impacting your business?
That's the trend there. The AI, like just how to really deploy AI is what we're currently looking at, right? And just not for a tool for our clients to use within our tech stack, right? That's available to them, but also the deployment throughout our operations to make better decisions, to be faster, be more efficient. That all trickles down to obviously California, higher labor rate. Any savings that AI can, or the efficiency of AI and providing solid data to you to make better decisions is going to, hopefully that can translate it to have some savings for the clients as well, right? Even now from the front end of the supply chain where this is outside the WMS, there's WES, warehouse execution systems that we're also reviewing, to where it's able to, from now the 3PLs are taking a step forward or ahead and already getting that PO information or those ASNs that we were talking about earlier from the manufacturing to where they're loading it from overseas, and it's already happened, right? The traceability on that inventory specific on certain vessels, and it could be a large SKU line. You could have maybe 5 to 10 different containers coming in. You might have some from China, you might have some from Malaysia. But essentially what it's doing is it's tracking that and still connecting the dots to what orders are sitting in their systems to be able to see what work can you do, where can you be proactive, right? Essentially, it's giving you insight and giving you early deliverables to your operations teams to take specific actions to prep or to speed up as soon as it hits. Then now it hits the dots that you might be 3-4 steps ahead, that's worth the way to go there, right? So that's a huge one.
Obviously all businesses are looking at ways they can implement AI and how it's going to impact their business. You caught a couple there with margin protection and potentially cost savings and labor impact, all of those things. This is the part of the show where we ask for the free advice part. We We don't ask for much, but we try to get your perspective on this. For the brand owners and operations leaders listening who feel like their fulfillment is a black box, what's the one action you'd recommend they take in the next 30 days to get control of it?
I'm going to isolate this to a lot of these direct-to-consumer brands, these ones that are primarily doing e-commerce fulfillment. Really dive deep with your 3PL and engage further to understand parcel, right? Their parcel network, and allow them, open the doors to have these constructive conversations on building out, and not only doing this once a year, you're doing this multiple times a year, to allowing them to take with your assistants, take a look at your back ends and what really are your goals. Because there's a lot of these there's shipping options that are being put out there that could be, there's a lot of competition. Some of these brands are doing, selling, you're in skincare, you're in CPG, just CPG brands, just in general, but there's a lot of competitors, there's a lot of options. You can compare it to Amazon, you compare it to another marketplace. What makes you stick out? Engage with that 3PL to really, what's going to set yourself apart. Open it up. Don't be scared to let them look at some of that data. You don't have to show them everything, but a lot of these 3PLs now, including yourselves, are really being able to go in there and tweak and offer, even if it's just because it's free shipping, doesn't mean it needs to take 2 to 7 days. You can even have some of your product options or say your package types to ship 2 days, still offer free shipping. And you just think, oh, it's just going to be too expensive. No, you can literally do it for maybe 20 cents or 30 cents more. I could go more broad, but I think that's these direct to consumers, these brands are like, really, that's their focus. They want to push a lot of volume that way. Is that there's a lot of money to be saved on your end and also passed on to your clients, so that you don't have abandoned, or that they choose to close your cart instead of someone else's.
Great point, and really good free advice there. So the last question I have for you, what's next for River Plate, and where can our listeners go to find out more about you, maybe get in touch with you if they're looking for a new provider and see what's going on with y'all's organization?
Yeah, appreciate it, Matt. You can find it at www.riverplateinc.com. You can find River Plate on LinkedIn. We're on social media, Instagram, constantly putting new content and material up there. And yeah, feel free to jump in there, put an RFQ in. A lot of our clients have the sales email there. That also is reviewed by our team, but I also take a look at it myself. And what's next there for River Plate? We're really trying to expand more internationally. We've done a really great job over the years. We have brands from all over the world, right? But how can we better service these accounts that are overseas, that just feel like they get jammed up to where they're trying to break into the US market, or they're not feel like, I hear it all the time. They'll send these RFQs and they're like, wow, you were one of the few 3PLs that actually got back to them. There's a lot of opportunity, right? That we're putting a lot of focus there. Obviously, the buzzword, the AI, doing a lot of deployment so that we can offer better solutions and for our clients and for internally in our team. And another big one there is we're really expanded our production and value added service department. A lot of different types of bundling programs, promos, where a lot of these influencer entrepreneurs are coming to us with their brands, and they really want someone that has some experience in that. We've done some great jobs with a handful of clients, and they've sang our praise in terms of our speed and how flexible and nimble we are. And that's something that we also want to focus on, because I feel like it's a lane that there's opportunity for everyone.
For sure. No, that's excellent to hear. Exciting growth stage for you at River Plate. We're glad to hear that the logistics industry and 3PLs are out there making it happen every day. This was really insightful. Thank you for coming on the show today, Leo.
Appreciate it, Matt. Thank you, everyone.
To stay ahead of the curve and to help plan your strategy, please check out our website at variableops.com, where you can see the framework around upcoming policies and how they will impact you. If you're on socials, give us a follow on LinkedIn, X, Truth, or Instagram. And if you're enjoying the podcast, please feel free to follow the show on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube, and leave us a rating, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you again for joining us and learning more about how you can make your way.